Hello all, very good evening. Online students, am I audible? Okay. So we'll start with unit 2.2. I already talked about that कि civilization को अगर आप मतलब आप ये जो difference समझ रहे हो आप सभ्यता के तरीके से देखो. And I'm saying Indus Valley civilization. So what I'm talking about is the certain external representation, maybe the urban dwellings, the roads, the drainage system, the lamppost or the seals, all such kind of thing. आपने वहाँ पे internal aspects के बारे में कहाँ बात की? You cannot talk about it, right? कैसे आप scientific temper Indus Valley civilization के बता सकते हो? हाँ. Mainly, but आप किसी को civilization किसके basis पे declare कर रहे हो? कि कुछ एक externally जो visible aspects हैं कि आपको buildings मिल रहे हैं, infrastructure मिल रहा है, roads हैं and trade है वगैरह वगैरह. हाँ. नहीं, when I'm saying specifically when I'm referring to civilization, that is when I'm talking about external aspects. ठीक है. लेकिन जब culture की बात करें तो my major focus is mainly on the internal aspect, basic the way of life I'm talking about. And I'm talking about civilization. तो उस केस में मैं intentionally external appearances की बात कर रहा हूँ. Okay, so let's start. Society. This unit, here in this unit, जो शुरुआत के जो part है, that is not that important because the questions are not being asked regularly in this unit. Social institution, social group, and all that stuff. The major part of this unit that is very important is social stratification. Okay, regularly every year there is one question, at least 15-20 marks, asked about social stratification, and that's a very important topic. Why? Because we'll be using that idea in paper 2 as well, like caste system and various other forms of stratification, and in fact racism and all that stuff, where we'll be using these ideas. ठीक है, और आपको essay writing and social issues में भी ये knowledge काफी ज़्यादा काम आएगी social stratification की. Second part that is very important here in this unit is socialization. Okay, wherein we will be getting a brief idea of phenomenology, symbolic interactionism and all that stuff, and non-positivism के बारे में थोड़ा सा idea लग जाता है. ओके सो बट विल कवर ईच एंड एवरी पॉइंट बट मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि आज वाला पार्ट काफी ज्यादा फैक्चुअल जाएगा. ओके इसमें क्वेश्चन भी ज्यादा नहीं आते हैं. सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज सोसाइटी फर्स्ट. सो सिंपली द वर्ड इज डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम सोशियस व्हिच मींस companionship, okay, or friendship. So here if you say what is a society in a very layman term, so society is a group of individuals with a shared way of life. ठीक है, with united by a shared way of life or having same culture, that will be anthropologically called as society. Okay, just write the definition of society by Morris and Ginsburg. Just write it. It's a collection of individuals. It's a collection of individuals united by certain relation, or modes of behavior, which makes them off. ये वाला makes them off from others. Group of a collection of individuals united by certain relations or modes of behavior, which makes them off from others who do not enter into these relations or who differ from them in behavior. ठीक है, differ from them in behavior. So if we see what is the characteristics of society, so first one, that it consists of people or it's a group of individuals, and second, these individuals they have mutual interaction and awareness. It's by this awareness only that they are a part of society. There will be a collective or shared way of life, and it's by this awareness only the interaction will be possible. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि आप इस society के part को पता ही नहीं है. It won't happen like this. So it's that awareness that creates a social identity of a person, and it's the awareness that will actually make a person behave in a particular manner. Okay, so the second characteristic is mutual interaction and awareness. The third one is society depends on likeness. That is, it is likeness among the people in terms of culture, in terms of symbols, is necessary or it's essential for the society to sustain itself. Okay, so there will be likeness among individuals. Next, there are differences too. Okay, that is, अगर सिर्फ likeness होगी, if everybody is exactly same, then there will not be a requirement of the other person. हमें society की जरूरत ही क्यों थी? If everybody is exactly a replica of other, so there has to be difference as well, and this difference would promote interdependence among the members of the society. So you can say that primary likeness and secondary differences promotes cohesion in the society. Means on major level, value level, majority जो macro level की बात है वहाँ पे they will be alike to each other. Okay, shared value system will be there. But secondary differences means on certain aspects, maybe sexual difference, maybe caste difference, something else. Okay, this primary likeness and secondary differences would promote cohesion, and this is the reason for one major aspect, that is division of labor. Primary likeness and secondary differences would be the major reason for division of labor. Now division of labor not only in terms of economy, in terms of a lot of things. Means some people will be assigned certain kind of task, other people will be assigned some other kind of task. Okay, women को कुछ task है, men को कुछ task है, caste को कुछ caste basis, maybe age basis, whatever it is. So it's the major reason is the differences. Means some people are more suitable or more suited to some kind of job compared to other. Okay, next, the society is dynamic in nature. Dynamic means society changes with time. Okay, and the change might be in both the ways. membership, that is members will come, members will go, new members will be adding up, the older members will either leave the society or die out. Okay, so first that is dynamic in this term. Second is dynamic with respect to shared way of life, that is cultural changes भी society में होते रहेंगे. Okay, then society exerts social control. Okay, that is it regulates the behavior of the individuals who are the members of a society, and that we have already discussed ki it's necessary for the society to survive. So the society definitely has to regulate the behavior of the individual participating in. Okay, so let's see some theories regarding origin of society. So it regulates the behavior of the individuals who are the members of a society, and that we have already discussed ki it's necessary for the society to survive. So the society definitely has to regulate the behavior of the individual participating in. Okay, so let's see some theories regarding origin of society. So first theory is divine theory of origin of society. So ये theory पे कुछ बात करनी नहीं, it's very much clear by name itself that it believes that society is a work of God. Okay, भगवान ने ही society बना के हमें भेजा है. There is nothing called evolution. It's not a creation of man by his own intellect, but work of God. Now this theory or this hypothesis is not arguable. आप इसको prove या disprove कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. You just take it on the face. Either you accept it or don't accept it. You cannot argue. Okay, so this is the first idea that was given by the biblical scholars who suggested that society was created by God. भगवान ने हमें create किया, हमारे लिए society बनाई, हमारे लिए rules बनाए. Okay, now there is one of the very famous theory that is called as social contract theory. This was given by Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau independently. Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. So they suggest that what is social contract? That individuals, they voluntarily came together, they created a social contract, or they entered into a social contract in which they voluntarily surrendered some part of their autonomy, and they made somebody, or they decided that they will be following certain norms, certain rules, and somebody will be having some power can actually punish them. Okay, they entered into some kind of social contract. Now these three people, they have different versions of social contract. Hobbes, he says that initially man's life was short, nasty, poor, brutish, and living solitarily, that is alone. So he was in a state of perpetual conflict with all of his neighbors. हमेशा लड़ाई करता रहता आदमी. And due to this, since he was always in a state of perpetual conflict, his life was very short, poor, brutish, nasty. हमेशा परेशान रहता था, उसकी लाइफ को भरोसा नहीं था, एक दूसरे को मार काट रहे थे लोग. And in order to end this, people they came together, they decided that they should be entering into a social contract, and so that all this behavior, aggressive behavior, can be stopped, and that led to creation of society. हर कोई एक दूसरे का दुश्मन था, but now they decided कि ऐसे रह के क्या फायदा, everybody will die and nobody will be able to live peacefully, and that's why they entered into a social contract. So saying that society is a result of individuals' rationality. When they became rational, they decided that they do not want to die like this, they want to live a peaceful life, and that's why they created or they entered into a social contract. Locke says just opposite of it. He says that man's life was very much peaceful. Okay, and there was goodwill, mutual resistance, and he was free from all the virtues and vices वाला idea. मतलब उसके अंदर कोई बुराई नहीं थी, एकदम बढ़िया आदमी था. Okay, and everything was going good, peaceful, unless and until certain degenerated individuals were born. And since these degenerated individuals, that is, who were corrupt, who were very much greedy, when these degenerated individuals were born, they imposed a threat on this peaceful life of the man. And in order to make sure that these degenerated individuals do not bring chaos, the people with good value system, they enter into a social contract. Okay, so that they live a peaceful life. In the same way, Rousseau also says that man's life, or he compares the older people as noble savage. Noble in the sense that they were very much kind, and they were their life was free from virtue and vices, that they do not label anything as good, bad, or इस type की किसी restrictions में नहीं थे. They were free. Okay, and what actually happened? The population started, as the sedentary lifestyle started to increase, the population started to increase, and with the birth or with the rise of private property, all those vices like greed and enmity, jealousy, all such kind of value systems started to enter into the mind of men. And in order to make sure that the life remains peaceful, or they are not harmed by anyone else, so that's why they entered into a social contract. एक कह रहा है कि आदमी की लाइफ आदमी शुरू से एग्रेसिव था, इसलिए उसने social contract किया. The other one is saying that man is good by nature, human beings are good by nature, but maybe due to some reasons they might enter some kind of evil values, and in order to prevent these evil values to bring chaos in the society, a social contract was created. Okay, just like this. Hobbes. According to Hobbes, society came into being as a means of protection. Society came into being as a means of protection of human beings against the consequences of their own nature. Against the consequences of their own nature. Human being in nature, that is when culture was not, nature का मतलब ये नहीं कि environment में. Nature means when they were not civilized, when they were not, the culture was not that developed. Human beings in nature were in perpetual conflict with their neighbors. On account of their selfish nature. Life was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Life was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Every human was enemy to every other human being. Every human was enemy to every other human being. Hence, they entered into social contract. They entered into social contract. They surrendered their natural rights. They surrendered their natural rights into the hands of few. Into the hands of few to command. Okay. Then the next one is Locke. Locke. Human beings were enjoying ideal liberty, free from all sorts of rules and regulations. Enjoying ideal liberty, free from all sorts of rules and regulations. Their life was characterized by peace, goodwill, mutual assistance, and preservation. This was upset by corruption of degenerate human beings. To escape from chaos, they created a social contract. To escape from chaos, they created a social contract. Third one is Rousseau. Human beings lived a life of primitive simplicity, and idyllic happiness. Their life was independent, self-sufficient, healthy, fearless, and good. They were free from notion of virtue and vice. Population, as the population increased, this simplicity drowned. The equality which was present earlier ended. War and conflicts became normal. Hence, they entered into a social contract. Okay. Next theory is evolutionary theory of social or society. Okay. So here, this evolutionary theory is talking about the gradual origin of society. That it was not all of a sudden that people realized that society has to be created and they entered into a society. It was something that was a gradual step-by-step process. And धीरे-धीरे means ऐसा नहीं कि society बन गई. Okay, अचानक से all of a sudden society was created. But it was like people living together. धीरे-धीरे they started accumulating some kind of experience. They started to build up some norms, some rules, and all. And gradually these norms and rules became more refined, more detailed, regulating the behavior of individual. And finally, the society, what we call as society, was created. Okay, so few people living together, then more people living together, and new rules, new norms, new value system, more refined, getting refined day by day, started to happen. Now the major thing that starts is like the one idea that was given by Henry Maine, who talks about the patriarchal theory of society formation. So here patriarchal theory says that that society is nothing but family extended. Okay, so initially there was a family only, that 2 or 3 people, husband, wife, children, living together. Now your family बढ़ती जाएगी. So out of one family, multiple extended families would come up. And when the size of the family increases, the authority is given to the head male, and who would be regulating the behavior of the family members, even the extended family members. Joint family type of head male will be getting the authority, and it's due to the authority of that head male a patriarchal society would be created. So we have talked about this earlier also when I was talking about evolutionism, wherein I talked about this. Henry Maine also, he gave a concept called as patricia potestas, that is society or authority was always in the hands of male, and it was never in the hands of female. ठीक है, तो उन्होंने ये बोला कि सबसे पहली जो सोसाइटी और जो आई होगी that would have happened because of enlargement of family, and wherein the family members would have given the authority to the head male member, and that would have created, or this is what is called as the patriarchal theory of society formation. Just write it. According to Henry Maine, society originated due to expansion of families. As the families expanded, they were held together by authority and protection of eldest male member. Society is family writ at large. society is family writ, or nothing but a family only. Society is family writ at large. Okay. In the same way, there is a scholar Jens. In fact, Morgan would also say this, that what is called as the matriarchal theory of society formation. Okay. So they would suggest that initially what would have happened, polyandry, and polyandry due to which the descent was traced through mother side, and this gave mother the authority to control the members of the family. And initially, the mother's authority would have brought multiple families together. As the family would have expanded, mothers or female would have got the authority. So it's just a polar opposite of patriarchal theory. Here, male was getting the authority to control the expanded family. Here, the female will be getting the authority to control the expanded family. That is nothing but the matriarchal theory of society's formation. Just like this, matriarchal theory suggests that due to promiscuity, or polyandry, descent was traced through mother's side. Hence, the expanded family would be controlled by a female. ठीक है. एक और ऐसी theory, evolutionary theory, that we have already talked about, Durkheim's idea of formation of society. Remember the story? The story is like they travel. So एक आदमी, basically they were living alone, and then they might have met, one person would have met some other person at some place. He might have felt happy. So then later on he went again. He again felt very happy. So that collective effervescence that was created when people used to meet together, or that eccentricity or that kind of electricity power that they face or that they experience when they met each other, that would have created the idea of something sacred, क्योंकि उनको लगा कि शायद उस पत्थर के पास जाके हमें अच्छा लग रहा है, that stone or that tree is the source of the happiness. And due to this collective consciousness, they would have created something called as a sacred object, and that led to, due to the sacred object, a moral community around that sacred object was created, collective consciousness, and that led to the formation of society. We have already discussed this. I don't think there is need to explain it. किसी को कोई doubt है इसमें? So just आप लिख लो Emily Durkheim, the idea of sacred object. That's it. आप अपने रिलीजन वाले नोट्स में से इसको देख लेना. Emily Durkheim, the idea of sacred object. Okay. Now, that is organismic theory of society formation. It's equivalent to evolutionary theory. Means, sorry, it's a type of evolutionary theory. But somewhere you might find इसको अलग से दिया हुआ है. Somewhere you might find that it is in the evolutionary theory itself. This is also what we have already read. This idea was given by Herbert Spencer. We have read this organic analogy. So he compares a society with a living organ or organism. Okay, as several organs, they come together, they work in a coordinated fashion, and that makes what is called as life. In the same way, several institutions will be working together in a coordinated manner, and that would make society functional. So he compares the society with a living organism, saying that they have a similar beginning. So, and as they grow, they start becoming complex. So in the way that if you see the life on Earth, it started from amoeba, a single cellular organism. Okay. So when amoeba was there, so that same cell is all respiration, all digestion, all everything that was happening in the same cell, isn't it? उसी cell के through basically digestion, respiration, metabolism, reproduction, every function was done by in the same cell itself. So he says that it is how the society also would have originated. A simple form of society, like every function, you cannot distinguish whether it's, we have talked about this, it will be simple, everything, you cannot distinguish between family, marriage, economy, political, religion, anything. These are all the same thing. Just like cell में क्या हो रहा है, single cell में, every function is being done by the same cell. In the same way, the distinction was not there. But as the organism becomes complex, so there is a separate cell for respiration, lung cells अलग हैं. There's a separate cell for brain or neural coordination, neurons are there. Then there is a different cell in the hearts, different cell for blood. So distinction started to happen. In the same way, as the society will become complex, these functions will become more specialized. The institutions will become distinct: religious institution, political institution, economic institution, family will be different. Okay, so our life or society, life on Earth and society were very similar. Started in a very crude form, where there was no distinction, and as it evolved, it became more complex. This is what is the organismic theory of society. Just right. According to Spencer, society is equivalent to a living organism. They have same attributes. And follow same process of development. Right, next paragraph. A living organism and a social body begin as germs. Germs, actually biologically they are referred to as sex cells. Okay, so not that germs, kitanu, germs means sex cells, sperm and ova. Okay, so they begin as germs. As they grow, they become complex and interdependent. As the lowest type of animal, in bracket you can write amoeba. The single cell performs all functions like digestion, respiration, etc. Similarly, in primitive society, all are hunters, all are hunters, all are tool makers, etc. As the society becomes complex, as the society becomes complex, division of labor follows. Division of labor follows. Okay. So actually, he compares the society with living organism, saying that living organism has three major systems. This is not that important just to tell you: sustaining system, distribution system, and regulating system. Okay. Sustaining as if like we take some food that is necessary for our survival, and that food will be digested, that will give us some energy. Then when the food has been taken into our body, the energy has to be distributed to all the body parts. Only then it will survive. Okay. So oxygen, we are inhaling oxygen. That oxygen has to be distributed to all the body parts, and then there is a regulating system in order to regulate all the organs. In the same way, these three systems will also be present in the society. So the sustaining system will be mode of production. How things are produced. Okay, so you might be going for hunting, gathering, or maybe pastoralism, maybe shifting cultivation, maybe agriculture. So there will be some mechanism of food getting strategies will be there in all the society. That is the sustaining system. Then there is a distribution system. That is once the food is available, how it has to be shared, maybe reciprocity, redistribution, or maybe by market exchange. Okay, and then there is a regulating system. So there are several norms. There will be certain value system that will be regulating the behavior of the individuals in the society, so that overall the society functions. So for example, हमारी body में cell growth is regulated, and that's why we do not grow infinitely. हम किसी एक particular height तक ही grow करते हैं, and after a particular age, say 21 or maybe 20, the height stops, the body growth stops. That means the growth is being regulated by some mechanism. Else, if it is not regulated, what would have happened? We would have been growing our entire lifetime. And suppose करो कि cell growth is not regulated. So then one thing that happens, a very common disease, or means we know about it, cancer. Okay, that there is a cell जिसकी growth आप regulate नहीं कर पा रहे, हमारी body वहाँ पे basically वो उसकी growth regulate नहीं कर पा रही, या फिर उसको stop नहीं कर पा रही. So what will happen? That cell will multiply itself infinite times. Initially it takes the form of a tumor and then finally grows in the form of a cancer. Okay, and what happens? जिस भी organ में ये cell grow करेगा, it will start absorbing all the nutrients from that organ, and that particular organ will be deprived of every nutrient, and that organ will eventually fail, and that would lead to collapse of the body. Okay, so regulating system is important. In the same way, every individual's behavior has to be regulated in the society, and if this behavior is not regulated, so the society might end up into a collapse or chaos में end up हो जाएगा, and the society will ultimately collapse because the behavior of one individual, it will infect other people and so on and so forth. इस तरीके से proper civil war situation हो सकती है, or maybe a conflicting situation in the society might come. Okay, so all these three systems, as per Spencer, they are prevalent in the society as well, just like in the living organism. Okay, now let's see. So these are the major theories related to formation of society. Relation between individual and society. How individuals and society are related. So when we saw Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, okay, one thing that was common with them, that individuals by their will created society. Okay, so they try to project individuals over and above society. समझ रहे हो? Society हमारी खुद के rational decision की वजह से बनी, consciously created by the individuals. They entered into a social contract. Now there are other scholars who believe that individuals are controlled by society rather than creating it. They are controlled by society. So there is a scholar, Peter Berger. So he says that society is the wall of imprisonment in history. Okay, so society is just like a imprisonment, or we are trapped in this imprisoned walls. So हमारे आसपास it has created some kind of boundaries that we can never cross. A very similar idea to that of Durkheim. Social fact. By being a member of society, society tells you how to act, think, and behave. And if you don't do, there is an element of coercion that might punish you. There might be a coercion for deviance. So that coercion can be in the form of your embarrassment, okay, some kind of humiliation, jokes, or maybe some kind of physical coercion, or maybe some kind of economic sanctions might be imposed upon you, or you might be outcasted. So here they are saying that society kind of controls individuals rather than being created by individual by their self will. It is something where the individual is trapped and our behavior is being regulated by the society. हमारी कुछ खुद की कोई free agency नहीं है. Being a social animal, we are kind of trapped. Okay, just like this. So Peter Berger. Society is walls of our imprisonment in history. Society is walls of our imprisonment in history. These walls were there before we appeared. These walls were there before we appeared, and will be there after our death. And will be there after our death. Humans are entrapped. Humans are entrapped by their own social nature. By their own social nature. Society shapes identity, thoughts. Society shapes identity, thoughts, and emotions. Identity, thoughts, and emotions. Okay. Next, right? Scholar John Homewood. Just because we are social animal, there is a kind of inherent need to live in the society. हम लोग उसके बगैर survive ही नहीं कर सकते. And when we are living, means आप सोचो कि there is a, आप लोगों ने केस सुना होगा, एक कमला एंड अमला करके बंगाल में, अगर नहीं सुना तो just let me tell you, एक केस है that is Amla and Kamla. These were two twin sisters that were found in the wolves' den. Okay, and when they were rescued from wolves' den, then what happened? It is said that they were not able to speak. They were not able to, they made some kind of howling sound that was made by wolves. Okay, although this story is kind of contradicted कि ऐसा लगता है कि mythological story है या तो mythological as if no credible evidence is there, but there is a clear cut case of और ये proven case है, that is the case of a girl named Jenny. So who was LA की case है, Los Angeles के. यहाँ पे he had a drunkard father, okay, who was very much abusive, and a mother who was physically, she had a drunkard father and a mother who was physically disabled. And what her drunkard father did, actually he locked her Jenny into a room, ठीक है, or at a very young age, and that room had no sunlight, nothing, and she was locked there, I don't know, for some years, and in those years she was just provided with some food. So by some mechanism, her mother actually someday informed the local administration that this has happened, and when local administration, they came and they rescued Jenny. So when they opened the room, they were kind of threatened, or they were kind of shocked to see what they were seeing there in the room. And Jenny was not able to speak, she was not able to walk also. And उसके बाद Jenny was given a lot of mental therapies, सब कुछ train किया गया, best possible medical treatment. In fact, she was the case study for many psychologists, many doctors, and a lot of other social scientists. But even after a lot of training and even after a lot of effort, she was not able to speak, and she had to spend her entire life in the mental asylum only. ठीक है, तो आप समझो कि society कितनी ज़्यादा important है. That if an individual does not get social training or socialization at the right age, then nobody can make, or what makes us human from a man is our socialization. Without society, without socialization, it is impossible for an individual to survive, or there is no difference between animal and a man or a human being. Okay, so we actually are biologically आप कह सकते हो that we are kind of social in nature, and without that we will never be, our genes and our biological capacity को हम कभी utilize ही नहीं कर पाएंगे if you are not socialized, if you are not trained by the society. And that's why we have to be in the society. अब society में रहोगे तो कुछ rules and norms को follow करना पड़ेगा. This is what he's saying, that man is entrapped by his own social nature. Now, just like John Homewood, human beings are social animals. Human beings are social animals and organize their activities in groups. Organize their activities in groups. Society patterns our action. Society patterns our action and shapes our expectation. Shapes our expectation. Now, there is another scholar, Ferdinand Tonis. So he talks about two types of society and how it shapes the individual behavior. So first one is Gemeinschaft, and the second one is Gesellschaft. It's a very important concept because you can use this concept not just here, but whenever a society transits from rural to industrialized society में ऐसा change आएगा as per Tonis. Okay, so Gemeinschaft mainly refers to a rural or a traditional society, and this refers to an industrial society. Okay, and how an individual will behave respectively. So here in Gemeinschaft, it is characterized by ties or social ties, mutual relationship, reciprocity. There is a feeling of community. Okay, while in the Gesellschaft, you will find that there is voluntary association. It's a feeling of association which is voluntary in nature, supported by exchange relationship, not the kind of reciprocity, but exchange relationship will be there. The relationship that is there in Gemeinschaft, that will be spontaneous, effective, and or effective means emotional, and characterized by cultural homogeneity, almost similar cultural practices. So rural areas में ऐसा ही होगा. While relationship that will be in Gesellschaft will be artificial in nature, impersonal. So what does it means to be having an impersonal relationship? So for example, everybody gets newspaper. आप लोगों ने सबने newspaper subscribe कर रखा होगा. Okay, आपके घर पे रोज सुबह newspaper आता होगा. कितने लोगों को अपने newspaper vendor का नाम पता है? Okay, and बाकी लोगों के contact में newspaper वाला नाम saved होगा. And if he does not give, or if he suppose unfortunately if he or she dies, you will save another person's number with the name of newspaper वाला. हाँ, two, yeah, isn't it? या फिर आप लोग दूध लेने जाते हो या सब्जी लेने जाते हो, तो do you know the name of that person who is selling you that? और आप उसी से हमेशा grocery ले रहे होगे, आप उसी से हमेशा दूध या सब्जी वगैरह ले रहे होगे, same shop every day. You might be visiting that Mata dairy, but did you even bother to ask what the name of the person is who is every day giving you your groceries or the milk that you need or whatever products that you're buying? आप हमेशा उसी से खरीद रहे होगे सामान. Your stationery also you will be buying from the same shop most of the times. But here the relationship are not personal. That means you're not bothered who the person in front of you is. Here you're giving him money, he's giving you something in return, maybe product, some goods or some kind of services. That is what is called as an impersonal relationship. You're not at all bothered about what is personal. मतलब उसके साथ कोई personal tie नहीं है. You give money, you get something in return. That's it. No matter how many times you will be exchanging or you will be participating in that exchange relationship, the relationship will remain same. कुछ भी difference नहीं आएगा. Numbers will never be saved by the person. आपको नाम कभी नहीं पता चलेगा. You are not at all bothered. Even after knowing this also, you will never bother to ask the name of the person. आपके यहाँ पे maid जो आ रही होगी, उसका भी नाम आपने कभी नहीं पूछा होगा. Most of the time आप दीदी बोल के काम खत्म. Okay, because I am also realizing the same. I also don't know the name of it. She has been working there maybe for 6-7 years. I don't know her name. Her name is saved in the name of maid के नाम से नाम save है. I'll ask maybe today. So this is the impersonal relationship that will be there in Gesellschaft. Okay, and here the relationship is for some purpose. आप community के लिए relationship नहीं बना रहे हो. This relationship is for some purpose, for a particular purpose. Maybe you want to buy some grocery, maybe you want to buy stationery, you want to buy something, some kind of services, and that's why the relationship is more or less voluntary, and that's why there is no feeling or no emotion related to it. Okay, so even if the person from whom you are buying a product for say 6-7 years, and you अचानक से got to know that he died, maybe due to heart attack or maybe due to some other illness, you'll be like, ठीक है, मतलब there will not be any kind of emotional setback in your mind. You'll just say कि यार आजकल तो कोई भरोसा नहीं है कब कौन चला जाए, and ठीक है दूसरी शॉप पे जाके सामान ले लिया. Okay, so this is the kind of relationship that we have in the gesell shaft. This is how the individuals behave in gesell shaft, and this is in gemein shaft. It's more like a unit, a corporate unit who are connected to each other, who are emotionally attached to each other. There is a feeling of community. There is a feeling of oneness due to cultural homogeneity. Okay, just like this. Gemein shaft is related to pre-modern or rural society. Pre-modern or rural society. It is characterized by ties of reciprocity, mutuality, etc. The customs dominate the behavior. Relationships are spontaneous, emotional, and characterized by cultural homogeneity. Gesell shaft refers to modern industrial society. It is characterized by voluntary association, rational calculation, and exchange relations. It's an artificial arrangement based on egoistic wills. The relationship is individualistic, impersonal, competitive, calculative, and contractual. ठीक है, so just write इसका summary लिख लो, means what we have. So first point, man is social by nature. That is, he cannot afford to live alone. Second, necessity makes man social. As many needs will remain unsatisfied without society. And next, society determines behavior and personality. ठीक है, एक छोटा सा टॉपिक, that is society and culture. So a scholar, Nadel, he says he is the one who has given a very apt relationship between society and culture, saying that culture is a way of life and society is a group of people having that way of life. As simple as that. So there is, we know that culture is complex whole, knowledge, belief, customs, moral, art, law, and any other capabilities which a man learns being a part of the society. So that way of life which we are learning being a part of society is culture, and that will be shared among the members of the society. That is what he says. So here, this culture that is there, we know that the functional aspects में हमने पढ़ा है that culture is there to satisfy the needs of the individual and or needs of the members of the society. Only then we are being a part of the society, क्योंकि हमारी कई सारे needs को satisfy कर रहा है. It is helping us in survival. Else, what's the benefit of? But living in the society has two functions, or the culture in the society performs two major functions. The first function is the survival of the society itself. पहले तो society को ही save करेगा. Okay, and the second function would be the survival of the individual, because there is nothing, there cannot be a society without individuals. Okay, there has to be some individual. So individual का भी survival होना चाहिए and society का भी overall survival होना चाहिए. These two, and that's why these two demands sometimes they are in harmony with each other, but at certain times these two demands might be conflicting with each other. When the certain needs of individual might be against the stability of the society, isn't it? So everybody wants to gain or earn money. Everybody wants to become rich, but when there is a limited amount of money or wealth. अब उस केस में if wealth is distributed equally among all the members, there will not be any rich nor any poor, और उस wealth की भी कोई वैल्यू नहीं रह जाएगी. There's no point of it. आप सबके साथ जला दो फिर से आप सब इक्वल हो, आप wealth हो ना हो doesn't make a difference, right? But if somebody is not having that skill, not having that talent, but still wants that wealth by any means, in that case, or maybe somebody's partner or prospective partner says that if you earn इतना पैसा तभी तो मैं शादी करूंगी. अब उस केस में what option does he have? अब उसकी सर्वाइवल के लिए एक चीज बहुत जरूरी है, पैसा चाहिए. What option does he have? He has to beg, borrow, or steal. Any other mechanism. So beg, borrow तक तो ठीक है, but that amount will not be sufficient. So in that case, the next option is steal for his survival, but that will be against the society's survival or society's stability के लिए. So here there has to be certain mechanism, or society or the culture will provide certain mechanism wherein the needs of individual has to be compromised in certain cases. Whenever it is in whenever it might be in conflict with the society. Well, individual ka culture will make him realize that if I do this, there might be a disturbance in the society, there might be a chaos in the society, and it's better to compromise. But it should not be infinitely compromised. In that case, individual will reject all that culture. So there has to be a balance. So a culture has to be or has to establish a balance between both of this. A culture which is focusing only on the survival of the society or as the prime goal, वो individual की need को satisfy नहीं कर पाएगा, and जिसकी वजह से individual will leave that culture, वो society अपने आप collapse कर जाएगी. समझ में आया? और an individual sorry, or a culture which gives priority to individual aspects. Okay, ज़्यादा प्रायोरिटी इसको दे रहा है, तो उस केस में सोसाइटी नहीं सर्वाइव कर पाएगी. So there always has to be a balance between these two. That is the survival of society and survival of individuals. Okay, just like this. According to Natal, culture is a way of life. Culture is a way of life, and society is a group of people. A group of people following a given way of life. Following a given way of life. According to Franz Boas, culture becomes a tool for understanding and describing a society. Culture becomes a tool for understanding and describing a society. Society and culture complement each other. Next paragraph. Since society is a union of individuals, since society is a union of individuals with special needs and interest, with special needs and interest, comma, in order to survive, the culture of society, must succeed in balancing, the immediate self-interest, of its individual members, with the needs of collective well-being of society, Society offers rewards for adherence, to its cultural standards and punishes the deviants. Okay. Now the next is social institutions. So simple social institution का मतलब है that is the pattern of activity that are reproduced across time and space. So these are if we talk about a scholar, that is M.T. Majumdar, he says that these are those well-established practices and usages that have outlasted several generations, or at least a generation, and which prescribe a well-defined way of doing things. And they basically are regulated by a set of personnel, some norms will be there. So this is something what is called as social institution, that recurrent practices which are socially acceptable. Okay, so for example, marriage is a social institution, family is a social institution. Why? Because it is related to a recurrent practice. आप हो तभी वही प्रैक्टिस चल रही है, आपके बाद भी वही चल रही है, और उससे पहले भी वही चल रही है. Okay, it's a recurrent practice, and these social institutions are the building blocks of a society. These social institutions, they work together, they work in coherence with other institutions, and they build up the society. So social institutions like religion, economy, polity, okay, education, family, state. So these are the institutions that will be working in coordination and that will create society, or they are the building blocks. Just write the definition. According to M.T. Majumdar, social institutions are collective modes of response. Or behavior which has outlasted a generation, comma, which prescribes a well-defined way of doing things, comma, which binds the members of a group into an association by means of rituals, symbols, and officers possessing regulatory power. So let's see the characteristics of social institution. So first characteristic is it is social in nature. That is, it's a result of collective efforts. When certain behavior that will be collectively repeated, regularly repeated, okay, that will create a social institution. Result of okay. Second one, it is universal. That is, all the societies in the world at all stages of development will have certain behaviors which are socially established and recurrent in nature. So all the societies at all the stages of development will have social institutions. Okay, the next one is having standardized norms. That means every social institution will have a specific way of behavior that is expected out of the member participating into it. Remember Malinowski talking about social institutions, there is a charter, then there is a personnel, then there is a norms. Okay, and everybody has to follow that norms. Only then the social institution can become functional in nature. So charter is the value for the pursuit of which a person or an individual join the social institution. Okay, and then there will be certain personnel in that social institution that will be doing some kind of work, or that will be providing some kind of role, or doing some kind of roles. Okay, and then there are norms that has to be followed by every person who is participating into that social institution, and that would make that social institution functional in nature. Okay, next one is it's a means of satisfying needs. So it's a means of satisfying needs. Now the needs are three major needs are there that is related to social institution. The first and the most prominent is self preservation. That is अपने आप को सेव करना, ठीक है, अपनी स्टेबिलिटी को इंश्योर करना, सेल्फ प्रिजर्वेशन. हाँ, इंस्टीट्यूशन इटसेल्फ. तो जब वो इंस्टीट्यूशन खुद में स्टेबल नहीं है, हाउ कैन इट सैटिस्फाई अदर्स नीड्स? सो फर्स्ट नीड इज फॉर सेल्फ प्रिजर्वेशन. देन द सेकंड वन इज self expression. Okay, so sorry, self expression means that it should be able to express itself, it should be able to do its own functions. So for example religion hai, so for example religion through self expression means it will be able to impact the belief or the behavior of the people in the society. Okay, religion jab apne aap ko express karega, it will be able to regulate the behavior of the people in the society by promoting a certain sets of morals, certain customs, certain values. Okay, and that is how it will be able to express itself, or there will be certain external symbols that you will be carrying, I will be carrying, following a particular religion. And third is very similar to it, that is self perpetuation or spread itself. ठीक है, ठीक है, self preservation, self expression and self perpetuation. Next is it exerts certain controlling mechanisms. हाँ, that's also correct. क्या इंस्टीट्यूशन अपने आप रेगुलेट क्यों करेगा? वो इंडिविजुअल को रेगुलेट करेगा, that will be here controlling mechanism. So they regulate or control the behavior of the individuals. Okay, and this is mainly to maintain the social order. If that is not done, the social order will be kind of disturbed in a society. Next one is it is relatively permanent. That is, these social institutions existed even before the individual was born, will be there after the death of the individual. So they are relatively permanent. So family will be there, individuals will come, individuals will go. Economy, education, religion, society, state, politics, all these will be there irrespective of the individual. So they are relatively more stable and permanent in nature. Next one is social institutions in a society, they are interrelated, and that brings coherence in the society. So they function in an interrelated manner. So religion cannot be devoid or cannot be dissociated from economy or polity, and that is like तो हमारी बॉडी में ऑर्गन्स हैं. इफ यू रिमेंबर दैट ऑर्गेनिक एनालॉजी, तो इंस्टीट्यूशंस रिफर टू द ऑर्गन्स ओनली. सो दे आर द बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक्स ऑफ द सोसाइटी, एंड जस्ट लाइक ऑर्गन्स वर्क इन अ कोऑर्डिनेटेड मैनर, इन द सेम वे these institutions also will be working in a coordinated manner in order to make the society functional. So there are two types of social institutions. We have already discussed this: primary institutions and secondary institutions. Remember culture personality Linton? So he was the one who divided the social institutions into two types, primary and secondary. Although he gave a specific set of institutions that can be referred to as primary, but he was not kind of adherent to it. उन्होंने अपने time to time इस classification को change भी किया है. So for him, or in general, you can remember that there are five types of primary institutions. You can remember it like this: reefs. Okay, the first one is religion, second is economy, third is education, fourth is family, and next state. Okay, religion, economy, education, family, and state, reefs. So these are the five types of primary social institutions, and all these primary social institutions will have a secondary institution. आप समझ लो कि एक प्राइमरी इंस्टीट्यूशन हर सोसाइटी में होगा रिलीजन, बट इसके बहुत सारे सेकेंडरी वर्जन होंगे. सेकेंडरी इंस्टीट्यूशंस विल बी देयर. फॉर एग्जांपल मे बी शमनिज्म माइट बी देयर, और मे बी बिलीव इन घोस्ट माइट बी देयर. ओके, और मे बी witchcraft or sorcery might be there. So that is the secondary institution related to religion. Then economy. So economy, there might be banks, there might be some guild system, और जिसको हांडी सिस्टम कहा जाता है. So such kind of systems might be there. These are the secondary. Every primary institution will have certain secondary institutions in the society. Okay, this is what Linton suggested, and these are the five types of primary institutions. Okay, now if we see, this is the important part: functions of social institutions. So the functions of a social institution can be divided into two types. One is called as the manifest function. The other is called as the latent function. So manifest, this idea was given by R.K. Merton. So manifest functions are those which are conscious and deliberate beneficial effects of that social institution. That is, manifest का मतलब होता है वो जो दिखे, visible है, and this is the original purpose for which that social institution was actually created. एंड दैट विल डेफिनेटली भी कोई भी जो सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन क्रिएट किया जाएगा वो डेफिनेटली किसी गुड पर्पस के लिए किया जाएगा. सो दैट इज द बेनिफिशियल इफेक्ट व्हिच इज कॉन्शियस एंड डेलिबरेट, दैट विल बी द मैनिफेस्ट फंक्शन. एंड देन देयर आर लेटेंट फंक्शन. लेटेंट का मतलब होता है हिडन. ओके, सो दीज आर सम फंक्शंस for which it was not consciously created, but it is being done by that institution, and that's why it can sometimes be beneficiary and sometimes be negative. So latent can sometimes become dysfunctional as well. So for example, let's take the case of labasana. So the manifest function is to create IAS offices, and latent function क्या है? Marriage bureau. उसके लिए create नहीं किया गया था, but in a hidden manner it also started to create marriage alliances. और majority मतलब जोड़ियां वहां से नहीं बन के आती, वहां से बन के आती हैं. Okay, that is labasana में. And school आप जिसको कहो, जो हमारे स्कूल बने, so the major function or the manifest function was to educate. बट लेटेंट फंक्शन क्या हुआ? हमारे फ्रेंड्स वहां से बनते हैं. ठीक है, एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज. ओके, ऑल दीज थिंग्स और आवर सोशल नेटवर्क वाज क्रिएटेड इन स्कूल्स. सो दिस वाज नॉट द फंक्शन फॉर व्हिच द स्कूल्स वर क्रिएटेड, बट लेटेंट फंक्शंस यहां पे. सो एवरी सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन विल हैव सम काइंड ऑफ मैनिफेस्ट फंक्शन एंड सर्टेन अदर टाइप्स ऑफ लेटेंट और हिडन फंक्शंस. ठीक है, जिसके बारे में शायद वो क्रिएट नहीं किया गया था, बट unconsciously it has started doing that function as well. And in that case, certain latent function become or are dysfunction. For example, religion. So religion, the manifest function was, we have seen like as Malinowski would say, anxiety, uncertainty to bring social solidarity and all that stuff. But now the latent function क्या है? That is the dysfunctional aspect, that is communalism. Okay, ethnocentrism promote करना, one religion को दूसरे religion से ban करना. Okay, all this will become the dysfunctional aspect. So there is a manifest function that is visible and it is beneficial in nature, for which purposefully that institution was created. And then there is some unconscious function which might be beneficial as well as dysfunctional in nature. Okay, just like this. There are कितनी बार गिराते हो यार? There are two types of functions of social institutions. First, manifest functions. Manifest functions. These are the beneficial effects of conscious and deliberate work of social institution. Conscious and deliberate work of social institution. Two major aspects of manifest functions are, first, pursuit of its objectives. That is the goal for which this institution is created. Pursuit of its objective. And second, preservation of its own internal cohesion. Preservation of its own internal cohesion so that it may survive. That is self preservation. वो फंक्शन करना जिसके लिए उसको बनाया गया है, एंड दूसरा खुद को प्रिजर्व करना. ओके, नेक्स्ट, लेटेंट फंक्शंस. They are neither conscious nor deliberate. They are neither conscious nor deliberate. They may be beneficial and sometimes dysfunctional in nature. Right? When a latent function does harm, it causes disorder and conflict. ठीक है, and this will become the reason for social change. कि latent function के जो harm है या dysfunctions हैं, उनको remove करने के लिए a social change will come up. And every social institution will have certain manifest function and certain functions which are hidden, that is not conscious, not deliberate function that they are doing. For example, family का काम क्या है? Manifest function, reproduction में help करना आपको. Okay, marriage, and then a lot of socialization that will be done by family. But there is a dysfunction also, sorry, latent function of family. Okay, and dysfunctional aspect, आप latent में dysfunctional aspect देखोगे तो family promotes corruption. क्योंकि आप ultimately जब job में जाओगे तो for whom you will be doing corruption? अपने family members के लिए. अगर family नहीं होगी, and actually this is something what Plato suggested. कि प्लाटो ने बोला कि state should take the responsibility of child rearing, and not everybody should be allowed to reproduce also. बोले क्योंकि अगर आप सबको reproduce करने की permission दोगे, so then they will basically work, they will have greater loyalty towards family, not towards the nation. ठीक है, तो इस वजह से just to make sure that everybody has the greatest loyalty towards the state, उस केस में two things has to be done. The first thing, that not everybody should be allowed to reproduce, only few individuals with good genes they should be allowed to reproduce. And good genes का मतलब good philosophers उसने बोला था. They are the rational people. है? अब इंडिया में हर कोई अपने आप को philosopher ही समझता है. तो चाय की दुकान पे बैठ के ज्ञान देने से थोड़ी ना कोई philosophy हो जाती है. So this he suggested that not everybody should be allowed to reproduce, and second, the ones who are reproducing, state should take care of them. ठीक है, उनके ऊपर कोई burden नहीं आना चाहिए. So state should have some kind of community reproduction center or some child care center, और जहाँ पे basically every child should be taken care of, उनकी education, सब चीज़ का खर्चा state को लेते हैं, जिसकी वजह से corruption नहीं आएगा सोसाइटी में. And सबसे बड़ी loyalty state individual की state की तरफ होगी, अपनी family की तरफ नहीं होगी. तो उसका कहना था कि अगर individual corrupt है state के लिए, तो सबसे बड़ा reason है उसका family. That is the latent function or the dysfunction that is being done by the family. Okay, so here आप कुछ functions और लिखो social institution के point wise, 1 2 3. Manifest function नहीं, sometimes latent function becomes manifest, but manifest function purposefully will never become dysfunctional. क्योंकि उसकी वजह से मतलब आप सोचो ना कि किसी social institution को dysfunctional करने के लिए थोड़ी ना बनाया गया था, उसको बनाया तो किसी गुड इंटेंशन के लिए होगा कि किसी तरीके से पॉजिटिवली बेनिफिट करने के लिए। किस इंस्टीट्यूशन को कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कराने के लिए बनाया जाएगा? सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन को। ये सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन है। कौन सी सोसाइटी में? पर वो दूसरी सोसाइटी में क्या करप्शन? सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन करप्शन एक वैल्यू है यार। देखो सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन जहाँ पे मतलब बेसिकली जो सोसाइटी का पार्ट है। ओके, अब आप टेररिज्म की जो बात कर रहे हो, इवन इफ आई से कि टेररिज्म एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है और तो वो भी मैनिफेस्टली बेनिफिशियल है किसके लिए? जिस सोसाइटी में वो प्रमोट किया जा रहा है। वहाँ पे वो सॉलिडारिटी लेके आ रहा है कि नहीं लेके आ रहा है? वो दूसरी सोसाइटी में डिस्ट्रप्शन चाहता है, अपनी सोसाइटी में थोड़ी ना बम फोड़ रहा है वो दूसरी सोसाइटी में डिस्टर्ब करेगा, लेकिन उससे अपनी सोसाइटी में एक क्वेश्चन क्रिएट हो रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है? At least the people who will be getting trained or are now ready for being a suicide bombers or maybe mujahid or जो भी terms that they use, they basically are being means वो they are rewarded and respected in their own societies. तो इसकी वजह से तो मैनिफेस्ट फंक्शन वहाँ पे तो सही चल रहा है उसका, वो लोग तो बढ़िया कि वो यूनाइटेड हो रहे हैं, सोशल कोहेशन आ रहा है और अगेन सेम बिलीव अगेंस्ट द कॉमन एनिमी, राइट? यार ये तो बस अभी बनाया है, ऐसा कुछ पता नहीं ऐसा होगा भी नहीं होगा। So this right functions first to simplify the actions of individuals. Simplify the actions of individuals. That means you have a well prescribed way of doing things. You don't have to think कि ये करे वो करे. There are multiple times you already know that already has been prescribed कि ये करना है. Okay, next, assign status and roles to the individuals. Assign status and roles to the individuals. That is, it institutionalizes social behaviors. Institutionalizes social behaviors. And last, contributes to unity and uniformity in a society. Contributes to unity and uniformity in a society. ठीक है? So unity uniformity मतलब unity तो आपको समझ में आ रहा होगा कि that due to social cohesion, and uniformity means everybody will be having the same prescribed behavior, everybody will be following the same norms, so there will be a uniformity as well in a society due to these social institutions. Now the next is social groups. Behaviors. The next is social groups. ठीक है? So when I say society, so आप लोग हर कोई अपनी सोसाइटी के बारे में सोचो. Means just go through this thought. So there will be a group of individuals that definitely would have come to your mind. So but आपकी सोसाइटी से कहीं ज्यादा बड़ी है. Okay, society might have like thousands or lakhs of people, but the people that came into your mind when I talked about society is actually the group of people with whom you have regular interaction, directly, indirectly, or maybe so जिनके साथ आपका regular interaction है. And this subset of society with whom an individual has regular interaction is called as the social group. तो हमारे लिए वही मेरी सोसाइटी है. तो सोसाइटी you can say that it expresses itself to an individual in the form of social group. वो group of individuals, मेरी सोसाइटी में हजारों लाखों लोग हैं, but I don't know all of them. But with whom I am interacting, that is maybe 50, 70 or 100 people, not more than that. Even say 500 people. जिनसे साल में शायद कभी मैं मिल लूंगा. Okay, or maybe whose behavior might affect, or with that person at least I know verbally, non-verbally, or consciously, unconsciously मुझे पता हो उनके बारे में. So that is when I see a society, when the outsider के point of view से, so then society will be a very larger group. But किसी insider के point of view से when I'm talking about a society, so it usually is referring to a social group. That is that set of individual with that set of people with whom that individual is regularly interacting in some way or the other. That is what is called as a social group. Just write the definition. Social group is a social unit which consists of a number of individuals who stand in a definite status and role relationships, to one another, comma, which possess a set of values or norms of its own, comma, regulating the behavior of individuals, at least in matters of consequence to the group. Next point. It's a whole collection of individuals. In which social interaction takes place. Okay. So what are characteristics? The first characteristic of social group is reciprocal relation. That is, there will be a kind of dyadic relationship between two individuals. So father son, mother daughter, okay, master servant, whatever it is. So there will be a reciprocal relationship. You give something, you get something back in return. Okay, in a social group. Society में ऐसा नहीं होता है. because you are not related to everyone, and a lot of members you will never interact with them. You will never have any kind of social interaction. Although you have the capacity to interact, that is language share karte ho, culture share karte ho, but you will never be interacting with them. Okay, but in the social group there will be a regular social interaction that will be happening between the members, and that's why the relationship is reciprocal in nature in a social group. The next one is sense of unity. Sense of unity, that means there is a collective feeling with respect to that social group. आप जिसको collective consciousness बोल रहे हो, okay, with respect to a group of individuals, that is not the entire society, but that group of individuals with whom you have a daily or a regular social interaction, and there is a sense of unity. अगर उनमें से किसी को कोई harm करता है, उनमें से किसी को परेशानी होती है, then you will be standing for them. Okay, then common interest. So that common interest might be economic in nature. I'm not saying same interest, I'm saying common interest. Okay, so that is maybe related to economy, that entire group should rise. Maybe related to polity, that the member, or they might be politically powerful. Maybe related to some kind of educational aspect. Educational social groups might be created, so to enhance the educational status of that social group. So that is the common interest. Then similar behaviors. Due to shared way of life, due to shared culture, they will have similar behavior. Moreover, for the pursuit of this common interest, they will have similar behavior. Okay, so for example, this classroom right now is a social group having a common interest and more or less similar behavior. I'm saying more or less, that means there are some who are working more hard and there are somebody who is not at all bothered. Okay, but more or less similar behavior for the common interest to enter into or to get their name in the list. Okay, next there will be groups, norms will be there that will regulate the behavior of every individual in that group. Okay, and last, group is dynamic in nature. People will come, people will go, but the group will remain. Now there is a social group which we commonly call as family. But I have a question. कि अभी मैंने फैमिली को सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन बोला, अब मैं फैमिली को सोशल ग्रुप बोल रहा हूँ, तो एक्चुअली में है क्या? और अगर फैमिली दोनों है तो फिर डिफरेंस क्या? मींस व्हेन व्हाट इज, आई होप यू आर गेटिंग माय क्वेश्चन, कि अगर फैमिली एक सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन है या सोशल ग्रुप है? हाँ, इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे सोशल ग्रुप है और नहीं, फैमिली इज अ सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन. आई टोल्ड यू प्राइमरी इंस्टीट्यूशन है वो, एंड देन आई एम टेलिंग यू फैमिली इज अ सोशल ग्रुप आल्सो. व्हाट अ फैमिली एक्चुअली इज देन? हाँ, व्हेन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट फैमिली एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, देन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द बिहेवियर. Okay, that is established usages or recurrent behavior. That is family as an institution. वहाँ पे लोगों से मेरा कोई मतलब नहीं है. That is a particular set of behavior which is called as family. Okay, तो वहाँ पे son has to behave in so and so manner, mother has to behave in so and so manner. That is the behavior that I'm talking about is family as an institution. But when I'm talking about a group, I'm concerned about members. A group of people की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. एक तरफ I'm talking about the behaviors, and in other case I'm talking about group, individuals. Okay, the people. So that is how you will be referring. और जब मैं institution की बात करूँगा तो that means I'm concerned more about the behavioral aspects. Not concerned about कि लोग कौन है, क्या है, कैसे हैं. No. And the second time when I'm talking about a social group, I'm talking about a group of individuals in a particular status role relationship. Okay, और जब उस ग्रुप की बिहेवियर की बात करूंगा तो then I'll be referring to the social institutional part. Is it clear? आना कुछ तो बोलो यार. Now, according to C.H. Cooley, there are two types of social groups: primary social group and secondary social group. So primary social group has four major characteristics. The first one is smallness of the group. Group is small in size relatively, okay, and due to this smallness, there will be close face-to-face interactions. Okay, small group of people. अब जैसे कि आपका you can say family. That's a small or a primary social group in which there is say 10, 15, max 20 इतने लोग, and regular face-to-face interactions will be there among family members. Then it is characterized by durability of bond. It's permanent, kind of permanent in nature. Durability of bond is there. And last, limited self-interest. That all the members of that social group will be working. तो एक तरीके से आपको अगर कुछ अचीव करना है, so in that case the entire social group will be potentially contributing to it. They will make sure that every individual achieves that potential. ठीक है? So limited small group is there, regular face-to-face interaction, the bond is permanent, durable, lasts long, and then there is a limited self-interest, more contribution towards the welfare of the group, or more interested towards the welfare of the group. So एक तरीके से, for example, if you are preparing for UPSC, it's not only you who are preparing for UPSC, the entire family prepares for UPSC. Okay, in that sense that if they are concerned, every day your mother will be giving you a call whether you got up at time. ठीक है? You had your breakfast, newspaper पढ़ा नहीं पढ़ा. When you will be going for the exam, तो 3-4 दिन पहले से घर में हवन होना शुरू हो जाता है. And they will also be more concerned, means they will be looking at the clock कि अच्छा अभी पहले exam खत्म हो गया. Then they will be giving you a call just to get to know what has happened, कैसा हुआ, कुछ छूटा नहीं छूटा, whatever. They are very much concerned and they are experiencing the same kind of anxiety that you will be facing. In fact, they are more anxious. Okay, and for this entire journey, as long as you will be preparing, your family will be engaged into it. It's not something that you're doing individually. So that's a primary social group, जिसका काम है collective welfare में help करना. Okay, just right, the importance or function of primary social group. Importance or function. First, development of personality. development of personality. Second, fulfills psychological needs. Fulfills psychological needs. Third, help an individual to achieve goals. Helps an individual to achieve goals. Next, transfers culture from one generation to another. Transfer culture from one generation to another. Then carries cultural norms of the society. Carries cultural norms of the society. And last, helps in social control. Okay, then there are secondary groups, secondary social groups, which are large in size, and the membership usually is voluntary in nature. Okay, large in size, voluntary membership, and here there will be, or this secondary social group is goal oriented, and usually a member enters into that secondary social group for pursuit of a specific goal. आपका कोई particular goal होगा. For example, this class is a secondary social group, not a primary one, and you all are here for a particular goal. And as that goal is over, so you will all disperse. The relationship will also end. Okay, that is the secondary social group. That is a large group, and here there will be dominance of or there will be a prominence of indirect communication. यहाँ पे face to face communication नहीं होगा. Or you can assume as like corporate group, आपने किसी company को join किया. So that's a secondary social group. You join that company for say some salary or for your subsistence. You do some kind of work, and उस secondary social group में sometimes it happens that there might be growth of certain primary social group. So इस class में see initially what happens, which I have seen in all the classes. So शुरुआत में people basically struggle for the places, and then after some times there is a big spot for everyone. Okay, वो वहीं बैठेंगे, बगल वाले लोग भी same होने लग जाते हैं. Okay, that is a group of people. They become good friends. ठीक है, तो इस एक group that started as a secondary social group, here in this secondary social group several primary social groups have also emerged. Okay, so that is in और ये companies में भी हो सकता है, आपके स्कूल आपकी क्लास में भी हो सकता है, means school time में और college में. So not everybody is interacting with everyone. Okay, there are people who know that कि भाई पैसा तो ये मेरी क्लास में तो होगा, but never have interacted a single word with that person. Are you getting this? So secondary social groups में भी कई सारे छोटे-छोटे smaller primary social groups will emerge. Okay, so this is the secondary social group, and here secondary social group is playing a large role or very important role in the modern society. Specifically, it helps in division of labor and competition को promote करता है ये. Okay, just write this importance of secondary social group. First, characterize division of labor in society. Characterize division of labor in society. Second, it creates several primary groups within them. Create several primary groups within them. Third, acts as a channel for every individual to prove his talent. Acts as a channel for every individual to prove his talent. Okay. Now the last topic for today, that is a third type of social group that was not given by Cooley but by R.K. Merton. Sorry, this idea was given by Heyman and elaborated by R.K. Merton. So what is reference group? As the name suggests, that this is a group with whose reference you will be modifying your behaviors. Okay, and usually that is a group that an individual or a group wants to be a part of. Usually, okay, not always, but majority of times you want to be a part of that group, and that's why you might imitate the behavior of that group. Okay, so आप उनके जैसा बनना उस group में count होना चाहते हो. So this might happen basically in schools और खास करके whenever you might have shifted to some new boarding school, and then there is a group of say cool guys. Okay, so उनको आप imitate करना चाहते हो because so you'll get a new haircut, or maybe you might also make some tattoos and something like that just to be recognized like one of them, or just to be inducted into that group, or say specific clothing आप उसको follow करोगे. The slangs that you might use will be very similar. Okay, so that is a reference group. Or for example, it actually is a proof of man being an imitative animal. आप जैसे कि toppers की strategy सुन रहे हो, that is so that toppers is just like a reference group. आप सुन रहे हो और कहीं ना कहीं अंदर से आपके दिमाग में होता है कि मैं भी ये बात बोलूंगा. When I become a topper, you have that feeling. आप toppers में इसकी strategy नहीं सुन रहे होते हो. This is with everyone that you will be feeling that ये आदमी क्या बोल रहा है, मेरे को मैं जब topper बनूंगा, so you all have that speeches ready for you that you will be giving when you get your name in the list. So that means this is the reference group, and you want to be a part of it. And R.K. Merton says for this we go for what is called as anticipatory socialization. आपने anticipatory bail तो सुना होगा कि आपको उम्मीद है कि अरेस्ट वारंट आ सकता है, आपने पहले से ही बेल ले लिया. In the same way, anticipatory socialization means you are hopeful that one day you will become a part of that group, and in that hope or in that expectation you have already started to train yourself. Okay, क्या आप उनके जैसे behave करने लगे, आप उनके जैसे act करने लगे. You have started wearing clothes like them. You have started putting the external symbolic identity just like that reference group. So one very good example of this reference group and anticipatory socialization is Sanskritization, an idea that was given by M.N. Srinivas. We'll be reading in detail. Here, a lower caste kind of imitates the behavior of upper caste in order to be recognized as one. So whenever a lower caste wants to move in the hierarchy, and when I'm saying lower and upper, these are in single quote subjective terms. I'm not referring to them in real hierarchy. It's simply a subjective word that is being used to refer to the local hierarchy of the caste. Okay. So whenever a lower caste basically wants to rise, in that case, it will be imitating. And ऐसा होता है तो what actually first thing that will happen is restrictions on women will increase. So women will have less choice specifically related to mates. Women will be removed from the workplace. Okay, and more restrictions related to body purity, virginity complex, prevention of widow remarriage. Such kind of restrictions will be imposed on the women whenever they will be trying to sensitize. क्यों? क्योंकि ये हायर कास्ट में ये ज्यादा है, वुमेन के ऊपर कंट्रोल is more. Women are restricted compared to the women in the lower caste. They are economically free. They contribute economically to the family more than the men. Okay, but that's not the case with women in the upper caste. So just to be recognized as one among them, you will imitate their behavior, and that's why the upper caste is now the reference group. And जिसको देख के lower caste is imitating. So here, with respect to reference group, usually there are three types of aspirations. The first one is the one group particularly wants to be, or the member of that reference group. So complete imitate करोगे. Second, you want to be similar, but in some respect. Some respect as if, for example, like toppers. So you will be following the strategy. अब आपको इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि टॉपर क्या पहन के आया है क्या नहीं पहन के आया. That is not you want to copy. You just want to listen to his strategy. Maybe वो उसने आंसर कैसे पढ़ा या उसने जीएस के लिए क्या किया, ऐसे के लिए क्या किया. If that is making sense to you, you just imitate it. Rest all of the things, the kind of hairstyle he has, the kind of clothes he has worn, or the kind of watch, वो सब और क्या language बोल रहा है, all that is hardly important for you. So you are trying to imitate, but with respect to certain specific quality. Then the third one is just the opposite. It is when a group derives some kind of satisfaction being not similar to the other group. Okay, then also a group's behavior is being derived from the other group. कि आप अपनी आइडेंटिटी एकदम सेपरेट रखना चाहते हो, तो अगर वो कुछ कह रहा है तो वो बोला कि सनराइज इन द ईस्ट, तो यू ऑलवेज से कि नहीं वेस्ट में राइज करता है, क्योंकि हम तो उसको वेस्ट कहेंगे, तुम ईस्ट बोल रहे हो. तो बेसिकली दैट इज द सैटिस्फैक्शन व्हेन अ ग्रुप इज व्हाट अ ग्रुप इज डिराइविंग बीइंग डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द अदर ग्रुप. तो वो जो भी बोलेगा, वो जो भी एक्ट करेगा, वो उसको काउंटर कर देगा, हम ऐसा नहीं करेंगे. विल बी कंप्लीटली ऑपोजिट, एंड दे विल मेक श्योर दैट दे डू नॉट डू एनीथिंग दैट आइडेंटिफाइज or relates one group with the reference group. Are you getting this idea? So this is the third one. So तीनों cases में what is happening? The individual's behavior or a group's behavior is modified with respect to a particular group, that is the reference group. When a particular reference group is there, जब कोई आपने reference group setup कर लिया, in that case what actually will happen? That certain changes in the behavior of individuals will come, and that might create some kind of conflicts in the society. So suppose करो कि if I talk about a particular rural youth, या rural लड़का है कोई छोटा सा, and he wants to basically imitate the behavior of the group of children who are educated in Doon school, and उसको भी उस group का part बनना है. So living in a rural area, he will start wearing branded clothes. He will start following the fashion statement of that Doon school educated children. Okay, and in that case, he might dissociate himself or detach himself with his own friends there in the village. Okay, अब उस केस में क्या है कि वहाँ पे detachment क्यों होगी? Because of conflict, because their friends cannot tolerate this kind of behavior. Okay, or the behavior is now not harmonious in nature. वो जिस टाइप की लैंग्वेज यूज कर रहा है, जिस टाइप का कपड़े पहन रहा है, जिस टाइप की बातें बोल रहा है, एटीट्यूड जैसा बना लिया, that is not harmonious, and that might break his friendship with the other youth. Now, due to this, a scholar named as Robert Ezra, he gave the idea of what is called as marginal man. This is the case of a person who aspired to be a member of a reference group, और उस चक्कर में उसने अपने ग्रुप को छोड़ दिया, but he did not got the membership of that reference group. So that particular person is called as the marginal man. हिंदी में उसको बोलते हैं धोबी का कुत्ता ना घर का ना काटे. So something like this. He wanted to be a part of reference group, and due to which he detached himself from the original group that he belonged to. Due to which now he is in a condition that he lacks the identity. He has lost the identity from the previous group, and he did not got the identity of the new group, and that's why it's a case of marginal man. Okay. So now let's see the case of a community here, that is Jatav of Agra. This study was done by Owen M. Lynch. So these Jatavs, they are the ones who engage in leather work. Agra side में ये जो यमुना बेल्ट है वहाँ पे they are concentrated. So during the British rule, what actually happened that the market was opened, and जिसकी वजह से this leather work or shoe making business, they got a lot of profit वहाँ से, पैसा बहुत बनाया उन्होंने. And when they earned a lot of money, they started proclaiming their status to be क्षत्रिय. बोले कि हम क्षत्रिय हैं. And इसके लिए इन्होंने एक स्टोरी भी बनाई. They created a Jatav association, youth association, and that youth association's work was mainly to promote this upward mobility of being क्षत्रिय. ठीक है. So इन्होंने सबसे पहले बड़े-बड़े घर बनाए, बंगलोज बनाए और अपनी वेल्थ को डिस्प्ले किया. At the same time, there was a youth association whose work was to promote this upward mobility. And what they did, they created a story that these Jatavs, they were originally Kshatriya, but when Lord Parshuram decided to kill all the Kshatriya with his axe, so Jatavs, they hid in the jungles, and in order to survive, they started working on leather or shoes in order to hide their identity from Lord Parshuram, and that's why they were able to survive. Okay, and now when all this threat is gone, we want to claim our status to be Kshatriya again. This is what the story suggests, and उसके बाद इन्होंने अपने क्षत्रिय status को claim किया, but the local Kshatriya, they denied them their status. They denied them, or they refused to marry their girls with Jatavs, because the work that they were doing was considered to be polluting. That is engaging in the leather or leather work में, that was considered to be polluting in nature. तो इसमें उनको क्षत्रिय status नहीं मिला. And now they themselves have considered कि अब वो SC की तरह तो नहीं रह सकते, या दलित की तरह तो नहीं रह सकते, और उन्होंने दलित के साथ, बाकी दलित के साथ attachment कर लिया, क्षत्रिय का status उनको मिला नहीं. Ultimately what they did, they converted to, okay, that's a case of a marginal man. You want to enter or get the membership of a reference group, for which you dissociate yourself with the original group, but refuse the membership into the reference group. and that's why you are somewhere in between, or kind of you can say liminality वाली condition है ना, पुरानी वाली identity रही ना, नई वाली identity मिली. That's the case of a marginal man. Is it clear? So this is the idea of reference group. Shall I dictate some notes? Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much.